jumped off the wagon. Oh, YouTube. Well, today I am visiting the site of the home of the 5th president, James Monroe. And you would think that this house is it, but it's not. Matter of fact, the house that he lived in is not even here anymore. Up until a few years ago, about 6 years ago, it was thought, and I'm going to take you around the side to show you what they thought was his home. Turns out they did a little archaeological dig right here and found in this area the foundation to the original house. And let me go around to the corner and we'll talk about that. So he bought this land to be close to his friend Thomas Jefferson. It's only about 3 or 4 miles away from Monticello, and I think it's over that way. But I think it's on that mountain over there. But the forest has grown up to the point where we can't see it. So, what did he build here? Well, where I was just standing is out there on the front. That's where the original house was built. It was thought that this was the original house, but it's been discovered. Somebody on staff here actually figured out by looking at the insurance records and so on that the description of the house in the insurance did not match this house. This he built as in 1818 thereabouts as a guest house, and so it was separated from the main house. So there was a story that I was told about why that door is so low. It is not a true story, so if you ever heard anything of that story, I'm not going to even repeat it, because it is definitely not true. But anyway, so he built this little part here in 1818. After his death in 1850s, they added on this little wing, and then the Masseys in 1870s built the yellow part here. Okay, so this was built in sections like many houses were, just sort of grew. But again, this is not, this was his original guest house. They do have a lot of furnishings in there because other opposite, or not like Jefferson and Monticello, when Monroe died, he was not in debt, so they didn't auction off all the belongings. It was all stayed within the family, and there is a museum, I think it's down in Fredericksburg, that has a lot of the stuff. They do have some of it up here, so 85% of everything that's in there is original. Was his, including some of the presidential china from the White House, which I thought was sort of cool. They won't let me take pictures inside for insurance purposes, but it's definitely worth it. It was for me as a senior, it was like $14 for just a tour of the house and the grounds. They do have a virtual reality tour. If you pay $19, although there's a 10% discount for seniors, you can get virtual reality goggles, and I think there's sound, and so you'll be able to walk around the outside and see holographic images, I guess. I decided not to do that because it really wouldn't show up on recording. But so let's go look around the grounds and some of the other things that are here. Monroe held many public offices besides being president and ambassador to message countries. I'll let you look it up. But anyway, one of his accomplishments as a president was the Monroe Doctrine, which basically stated that any interference in the in this hemisphere was an act of aggression, and the United States would take steps. President Kennedy used that as part of the reasoning behind how he handled the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1960. Anyway, he also started Highway 40, which eventually went all the way across the country. You may have traveled on it. I've traveled on some of it. Anyway, it was the first interstate, and this marker here was given to a Pennsylvania native, J. Winston Johns, and you can see it 56 miles to Cumberland, and Smithfield was 15, or 75 to Wheeling, or to Uniontown, only 7. So this was in Pennsylvania. This is an iron casting of that mile marker from the original Interstate 40. So underneath, this is the back of the guest house, and underneath here was they call it the still room. Basis of the agriculture here at Highland was grain and tobacco. Of course, tobacco was falling off, wasn't as profitable. Grain was starting to go downhill too, but there's always the demand for whiskey. So that was a still room under the guest house. And right next to it, a decent sized smokehouse. I mean, not like Jefferson had his underneath his house, but this is a smaller operation. Okay.
Yeah, what I'm doing today here, I'm doing some spinning on the wheel. I'm working at Mr. Monroe's, James Monroe's home, our 5th president of the United States. And Monroe did have spinning wheels on the property here. Monroe did it as a business. He also had a loom on the property. Monroe's in-servants would do this as for Mr. Monroe. And Monroe did sell the cloth that was made from the merino sheep wool back then. So what I'm just doing, I'm drafting the fibers out of the wool, this wool here, draft, and the wheel is twisting it around for me. Draft and twist, draft and twist. And it's kind of hard. You may think men's gonna do this. A lot of men today spin.
Yeah.
So the reason why men spin today because it's relaxing.
So this building was used as the slave quarters, and pretty rudimentary, as you can see in this room here. So the last room, and what was used as the slave quarters, is what it looked like when they converted it into a guest room. It's like they built the guest cottage, it still wasn't big enough, so they turned these rooms into a guest room. And down the end of the row was the overseer's cabin. Close to the main house, but separated out a little bit. And there's a room downstairs, and I'm with the stairs here. I'm assuming a sleeping loft up above. Well, it feels like a storm's coming in, so I think I'll wander along. This oak tree is over 300 years old, 20 feet around at the base, or told me they found out 17 first graders holding hand to hand. So now you know what the conversion rate for feet to first graders. It's 20 feet to 17 first graders. Anyway, his house would have been here facing that way. That tree was here at the time. So I can imagine, you know, Monroe sitting under a much younger tree and relaxing in the backside of his house. Maybe Thomas Jefferson was over visiting. But I'm going to get back on the road and see what I can discover next. See you later, YouTube. If you would like to help me out, I have set up a Patreon account for as little as $1 a month. You can help me visit more places like this, help me with the admission fees and fuel to get there. Videos are still going to be free, but if you'd like to help me out, just think of it as a tip jar. Right? And thank you very much if you've already helped.